From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast 1 Live.
Welcome back, everybody. Thanks for joining us. We're going to wrap up Rand Paul vis-a-vis his Patriot Act bona fides. And I was talking to Doc over the break how interesting the timing was now, because Rand Paul classically has been the Republican voice in the Senate to say we need to reduce our military's presence in the world. We need to take a more isolationist approach to our foreign policy. If we're looking for budget cuts, the military should be on the table, so on and so forth. Recently, he's seemed to have been kind of singing a different tune where he's calling for military budget increases and showing a lot of full-throated support for military intervention around the world. And then in a law that, rightly or wrongly, and because the Patriot Act allows for so much stuff, it really has kind of become the bugaboo for military-industrial complex folks. Rand Paul coming out against it on privacy grounds again seems to be a little bit another twist away from his more recent appeals to the mainstream. Doc, do you see any there, or am I just noting things that look contradictory when they actually aren't? Well, I mean,
this move on the right has been perceived as a rather cynical move, so he could boost his coffers, his presidential coffers. The unfortunate thing about libertarians, and there's a lot of people who could testify to this, they don't give a lot of money. So he does need the people, the large Republican donors. Mm-hmm. One of the things that that people are skipping over is there's another bill out there, and I have to put my glasses back on, but it's called the USA Freedom Act, and they would reform the Patriot Act's section that allows the NSA and the CIA from doing this bulk data collection through your phone, your internet, Google and Sprint and whoever else they get on board. Facebook is a big one, and that passed quickly through the House. So that is already through the House. What the Senate is arguing about is whether or not to reform that particular section. And as far as I understand, Rand Paul wants the whole thing thrown out. He thinks it's a giant overstep. Now, I'm speaking for him, but that's how I read it. That's what it is. And there are a few Republicans that are wanting to sponsor the House bill in the Senate. But the problem is the powers that be in the Republican Party and a lot of the Democrats, powers that be in the Democratic Party, want it to remain the same. They don't want to reform it. They want to reauthorize it for some other ungodly amount of time. And the bottom line is by the time all that happens, it's going to be, we're going to have chips inside us if we want to buy milk and beer and the rest of it and all that stuff, because that's that's the direction we're heading.
What's so stupid is the Democrats who were so against this and so all fired like, this is the worst thing to ever happen to the country. That was when George Bush was president. Now you have Democrats actually supporting reauthorization because, like you said, we like the guy who's in the office now. We didn't like the guy before. Well, that's not how it works. Sometimes you're not going to like the guy, but that means that nobody should have that much power, whether you like him or not.
And that's Rand Paul, and I agree with Rand Paul on this one. I agree 100%. There's way too much power concentrated in the Oval Office at this point. Now, I don't know if it's some clandestine giant conspiracy to bring down the United States or whatever it is. I don't care. But the bottom line is George Bush started it. He's good buddies with Clinton. They hang out together. Clinton consolidated a lot of presidential power. Mm-hmm.
So they all did.
They all did. And it's like it's one step after another. So I don't know if they're part of the Skull and Bones Club or whatever it is, but I do know that Obama has effectively amassed more power, in my opinion, than any other previous president. And bravo to him because he's a great politician.
Well, I don't know if you have any really evidence of that, but
I don't. Well, it's my opinion. That's why I said I don't. Do I have to have evidence of an opinion or?
Well, I mean, if you're going to say that you think that the president has amassed more power, I assume that's less of an opinion and more of a factual assertion.
Well, no. Well, I do. I don't have any facts at this very stinking second. But if you look at everything, how he does it, if you look at all the executive orders he's issued,
he hasn't issued that many.
But if you look at them, all these are steps. He's used the Patriot Act in a way that grants him more power, more ability to drone people overseas. Right? I mean, that's what he's done. So I'm not saying that, I'm not saying it's a. Hold on, I'm saying it's a bad thing overall. I'm just saying that I think Obama is the one that's benefited the most from the Patriot Act at this point, and I believe that he's done an excellent job at getting more power for the presidential branch. So, I mean, we don't have to argue about that.
No,
I'm just saying that I think he's a good politician. He's done what a president probably would do.
And I'm just saying that it's a problem with the office, not a problem with the president. It's with a specific guy. Nixon did it. Consolidated a bunch of power, especially when and which was the reason that the War Powers Act was even passed, like in 1977 or whenever it was.
Yeah,
that was a response to Nixon's activity and the political pressure is what forced him to bring our troops home from Vietnam. Jimmy Carter, I think, out of any president since Richard Nixon, the only president who did not actively, and we know this evidence-wise with respect because he didn't fight the War Powers Act when it came through, and he never fired a shot against anybody else. That's how presidents amass their.
And I would agree with that.
I would say that Jimmy Carter was the only president in modern times who did not actively seek to increase the power of the executive branch.
I would agree with that.
Every other one did.
Yeah,
and it's a bipartisan thing. Which is why our Congress needs to figure out how to work again and stop ceding all of their legislative and rulemaking authority to the executive office.
Absolutely. Get in there. Get Congress. Get in there. Do your job.
Yeah.
What kind of political fallout do you think this will have with Rand Paul?
Oh, well, I do find that to be an interesting question because like all these guys, he really wants to be president. I think they all kind of recognize that the way to be president is to court every part of their constituency they can court. That's an obvious thing to say. But the problem he's going to have is that mainstream Republicans, the guys that donate lots of money, the guys that have a hawkish view of the world, more so than other branches of our political spectrum, hate his foreign policy. They hate it. And so the folks that are giving Jeb Bush a lot of money, even though he hasn't declared yet, they're not going to get in bed with Rand Paul. They're not. They don't want any part of.
Yeah.
And that's why you saw him courting some of that military stuff early on. It's just you can't have 5-6 years or however long. He's completed a term. You can't have 6 years in the Senate of bashing military spending and then come around and say, well, I'm always been a supporter of the huge military and the mainstream Republican bread and butter. So it's going to be tough. This is just kind of lending him more of his libertarian credentials again.
Well, the other thing is I think that I'm going to say it this way, and I'm sure you'll correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this is where Rand Paul and President Obama's foreign policy really do kind of overlap. President Obama wants to get us out of entanglements in the Middle East, doesn't think we should be there, thinks we should be doing all kinds of stuff, letting them figure it out for themselves over there. And Rand Paul's kind of the same opinion. And the trick is makes your allies feel a little bit nervous. And in a nasty world where people want to hurt you, I'm not sure that's the best approach. So we'll come back.
I took the last word. I guess the second to last word I would say is the foreign policy debate, I think, is going to dominate the Republican nomination process this time around.
I agree.
Because they see it as a weakness of this president. They can't really talk about the economy with a straight face because the economy has gotten a lot better. They can't make it about that. And when the economy slowly kind of turned around after 2001, George Bush took credit. Every president takes credit for an improved economy, and every president gets the credit for it. So whether you like it or not, and there's a lot of factors involved that the president has no control over,
Yes.
but there have been certain policies that that have been successful, and they can't talk about that, so they're going to focus on foreign
'cause
policy.
Cash for Clunkers was wonderful. So, and on that note, we're going to be back and discuss the Huckabees and the Duggars.
6 years ago.
So, it still wasn't successful. Still isn't successful today. We're going to be back right after this break. We're going to talk about Huckabees and the Duggars and all kinds of fun things. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Be back right after the break.
All you can do is...
With a friendly, caring, and confidential place to find help for mental health concerns. We are ready for your call. We are proud to work with military personnel and their families. Our doctor, Dr. J. Patrick Bertroche, provides a full range of psychiatric services for children, adolescents, and adults in a forthright and informative manner while maintaining a casual, comfortable, and relaxed atmosphere. Our licensed mental health therapists provide individual counseling to children, adolescents, and adults, including couples and marital counseling. Visit our website at bertrocheandassociates.com for more information or call 515-334-9484. Our offices are located at 5525 Meredith Drive in Des Moines, just east of Skate North off Merle Hay Road. Isn't it time to talk to someone? Take care of yourself and your family. Contact Bertroche and Associates.